Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Woman, do not touch my child. A few hours ago, my aunt called my mother about something that happened today. Her pissed off woman voice could be heard across the room. I was curious what happened. Worried something bad happened as I've never heard her so angry, and asked my mother to put her on speakerphone. The following story she told us is parallel to a situation my mother and I went through when I was very young. Here is how it began. Early this afternoon, aunt at the age of 52 and her daughter at the age of 9 went to the store to pick up baking supplies for my cousin to make her first gingerbread house. Cousin had always wanted to make one and was inspired when I shared photos of the holiday goodies I made. I told her it's more fun to make food from scratch, and they just taste better, and she wanted to give it a try. That was their plan for this weekend. Cousin and aunt went to Dollar Tree for candy since they could get away more for way less. Then their local grocery for the good brand named stuff. They had most of the ingredients at home, so they didn't need much. Being the holiday season, they were in line for quite a while. Cousin bounced with excitement, saying she couldn't wait to get started on the gingerbread house and make it so cute. There was a white woman in line behind them, and assumed 40-something whose outfit said she could buy anything at full price and still afford her bills for the months. She said with a big smile, "Your daughter has such pretty hair." One thing about the women in my family, we all have great hair, because we take care of it. It's thick, healthy and beautiful, and we take pride in it. We all stopped using relaxers before cousin was even born, so it was 100% pure African American hair. It is a lot of work, but the payoff is worth it. Cousin loves getting her hair styled. Today's style was 2 twists over her head like a headband, butterfly clips, and matching bubble balls around 4 separate, even parted twists with flower barrettes on the ends. It was windy where they lived, so auntie also gelled her hair down. And thanked the woman for the compliment. Cousin was shy around strangers and inched forward, feeling uneasy as the woman was not on the 6-foot marker on the floor separating them. While aunt started loading their things onto the conveyor belt, she noticed one of cousin's flower barrettes fell off and one of her little twists came loose. Aunt told her to pick it up. She has bad knees, so as not to lose it. Cousin bent down to get it, and as soon as she stood up, the woman behind grabs her and starts touching her hair. This total stranger put her hands on another stranger's child, especially a black woman's child. Yeah, her obituary would be in the works if it were my kid. When aunt saw her, she hollered, "Get your freaking hands off my child." The woman stared at her wide-eyed and did not stop. "She's fine. Her hair is just so pretty." I couldn't resist the urge to touch it. Aunt starts taking her earrings off. Wasn't her first fight. She said, "Lady, I don't know you, and I'm not above resisting the urge to touch you." She snatched the woman's hand away and threw it aside as it smacked into the conveyor belt. The woman cried out in pain while clutching her hand and yelled, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And tells her, "You don't put your hands on someone else's child. If I did that to your kid, you'd have me arrested." The woman looks at cousin, who is on the verge of tears, and says, "I bet your mean mommy beats you at home, doesn't she? You're probably being abused. I can take you away from that pain, baby." Cousin began to step back from the woman, smelling that crazy on her, and this brat quickly grabbed her arm by force. Cousin shrieks, An ant backhands the woman clean across the face. The woman just gasped and stared at her like she was crazy. To Ant's credit, she was a right kinda crazy. The kind you don't mess with when it comes to her cups. And did not know if someone called a manager or security or if they were already coming. But they did. And the two security men restrained my aunt. She's no small lady. The woman immediately started sobbing and told him, "Arrest this psycho! She assaulted me when all I did was say her daughter's hair was pretty." And said, "You put your hands on my baby. You're lucky I'm not whooping your butt up and down these aisles." The cashier and some onlookers vouched for her, saying she didn't know the woman who just started touching cousin's hair for no reason. The manager told one of the security guards to stay with the woman while he, Aunt, and the other guard went to his office. My aunt told him everything that happened before they checked the CCTV. Everything from the woman touching cousin's hair to Auntie slapping the taste out of her mouth when she tried to grab cousin by force. Everything Aunt told him was caught on video. The manager asked if cousin was okay, and she said yes. She was just scared for the other woman because she thought her mom was going to, and I quote, "beat the white out of that woman and curb stomp her." This made the security guy laugh. He was a black man with a daughter himself and agreed that his wife would have done the same thing. They went back to the woman and told her aunt was acting out of self-defense for her child. The manager told her that because she grabbed the little girl by force, she was on the hook for first-degree kidnapping charges. This is when the woman started fuming and shouted, "It is not my fault this skin pigment-related slur is a horrible mother." And there it was. The infamous word that ended Paula Deen's career and made Dave Chappelle a household name. The manager, the security guards, the unlockers, and saw a lot of dropped jaws and heard a lot of shocked gasps. The woman realized what she said and sputtered, trying to save face. The manager promptly told her to shut up and asked Aunt if she wanted to press charges. And she said hell yeah. The security guard who waited with the woman slapped some lovely silver bracelet to go with her outfit and escorted her out of the store. She was charged for the attempted kidnapping and hate speech. Aunt's $40 purchase was calmed and they went home. No matter how sweet cousin makes her gingerbread house, I'm sure the justice she and Aunt got today was even sweeter. Next story. Woman tried to get my 14 and 7-year-old sister arrested for taking out the trash. This happened today while me, 20 female, my mom 39 and two sisters 14 and 7 were cleaning out our yard. For context, we live in a smaller, older looking house on a relatively gentrified street with a lot of small to medium sized but high-end apartment buildings. It's still the same neighborhood despite them being 3 to 5 story buildings with underground parking. So we have two big metal dumpsters in the neighborhood, one at the start of the neighborhood and one near the end. We live near the middle of the neighborhood. So my mom decided to just request a private bin from the government to place outside our own gate, so as to not have to walk too much to throw away our trash when we are busy. Well, let's just say that after 5 years of rough treatment from the government waste collection company, it gave its last service and we had to request a replacement, which will take a few days. In the meantime, we have to take turns walking to the dumpsters on either side to throw our trash. It's never a problem, and shouldn't be because it's all of our taxes that pay for waste collection anyway. My mom sent both of my sisters to throw a bag of yard cuttings to any of the dumpsters, and they decided to go to the one near the start of the neighborhood for once. It's alright. My mom says okay and stays near the gate to keep an eye on them while I continue to clean the Porsche. A few minutes later, I can hear my mom start yelling, then running in the direction that my sisters went in. And I nearly died thinking something horrible happened, so I followed her. At the start of the neighborhood were my sisters. Near the dumpster that was off to the side of the building, and a woman was full-on screaming at them from her second-floor balcony with her husband just watching from the sliding door. I couldn't hear what the woman was saying as of yet, but I did hear when my mom started tearing the woman a new one from in front of my sisters when she got there. My mom is a bit of a hothead, and while I am too, she tends to make irrational decisions more, and her English begins to slip up. English is her second language, which makes it hard to get points across or understood. So as usual, I walk up and take over and tell her to calm down while I deal with this Karen. My mom pulled back my sisters to the other side of the road, and I looked up to look at the dumb jerk on the second floor. "What in the world are you saying, ma'am?"
You can't throw your trash there. I'm going to give you the trash collection bill.
"Ma'am, this is a public neighborhood dumpster."
I pay to live in this neighborhood and pay for this trash collection. You can't throw your crap in there unless you pay for it to be picked up.
At this point, I'm utterly confused on whether she was stupid and didn't see the big fat government stamp painted on all sides of the dumpster. "Ma'am, we live in this neighborhood too." She then makes the mistake of ignoring me and looking towards my sister at the other side of the street and begins to yell her head off.
Both of you take the trash you threw out of the dumpster. Now, or I will be calling the police.
My sisters are 7 and 14. She wanted to call the police on them, which immediately set my mom off again. I was quite irritated. Mom yells at her, "Shut up, I'm their mother. You talk to me or you haul yourself back into your apartment." I tell her, "Ma, just go home." But this lady is just absolutely screaming and pulls out her cell phone, repeating that she's going to call the police and make us pay for trash collection. And I immediately lost my patience. "Call them then. Get it over with. Call them and tell them that you want them to arrest a 14-year-old and 7-year-old for throwing trash in the dumpster." The lady seemed taken back but began directing this at me again.
I'll have them lock you all up. You're polluting the neighborhood and dumping trash when you don't pay for the service. Take the trash out of the dumpster before I come break all your faces.
You don't pay the waste company either. Call the police and tell them all of this. Do it before I do. That made the husband finally step in, and he pulled her back into the apartment while she screamed. He came outside by himself while we heard crashing and slamming inside the apartment. He says, "You don't have to take the trash back out of the dumpster. Don't do it again." That made me even more irritated. But I took a few deep breaths and said, "Why can't I throw trash here? In the public neighborhood dumpsters, funded by my tax dollars just the same as it's funded by yours." And the man had the audacity to snort and shake his head. He says, "I know your people, sweetheart. Don't lie to us." It clicked on what the both of them were insinuating. "You piece of absolute trash. Do not pretend to know anything about me or my family whatsoever." Keep in mind that this is at like 10 a.m. on a Monday and the street was not empty. So the few people going about their business have been stunned by the argument, and a neighbor had already called the police about a public disturbance. The police drive a huge expensive Ford truck that they spend all their money on to get, because of course they did. This is a developing country after all. And boy, did that whole story that me, my family, the crazy witch and her husband, and a few neighbors had to recount did not go well for the crazy witch, especially when they had to step into the apartment building manager's office to review the security footage, which made it even worse for the crazy witch and her husband, because the apartment manager was appalled and did not say a single word to anyone other than the police until she slipped aside and called the owner of the building. Let's just say that my 14 and 7-year-old sisters did not end up taking an air-conditioned ride in the backseat of the police Ford to the station to be charged with threats against a minor and public disturbance. And neither did they get an immediate eviction notice for breaking of their lease agreement while their wife went off to solidify her criminal record, screaming at the police officers on top of it. People really be crazy nowadays. Next story. Just because a pretty young girl is a receptionist doesn't mean she's easy prey. Several years ago, I worked as a receptionist at a healthcare facility. They were doing some renovations and had standing weekly meetings with the fire marshal. After the first meeting, the marshal asked me to type up some notes. After clearing it with my manager, I started transcribing until he came and stood uncomfortably close behind me. I asked him several times to stand on the other side of my desk, and he replied he wanted to make sure I didn't make a typing mistake. I quickly finished the transcription and handed it back to him. As he was reviewing it, he casually asked me on a date. I politely say I'm sorry. I have to decline. The dude was at least twice my age. The next day I came into work to see a note on my chair from my boss. It basically stated that while I looked nice, someone complained that they could see down my shirt. It was a knit sleeveless V-neck sweater, and I was wearing a blazer over it. It was not low cut. The only way to see down my shirt is to stand directly over me. So I know who complained and why. And I explained this to my boss. The next week I wore a knit turtleneck and blazer with black pants. The fire marshal came in, met with my boss and again asked to transcribe the report. While I was transcribing, he came to stand behind me once again and started rubbing my shoulders. I immediately jumped out of my chair and took several steps away. I told him loudly, "I do not want you to touch me. If you cannot stand on the other side of my desk, then I will not transcribe your notes." He then asked me out again, and I told him no. I finished transcribing and then left my desk. The next day I received another note, this time stating that I had acted unprofessionally, yelling at my desk and walking away when a guest needed my assistance. I again explained what happened to my manager and received no reaction. We got the inspection report back saying we failed. The third week I wore a high-necked tunic and slacks, both being at least 3 sizes too big. When the marshal asked me to transcribe the notes, I simply said no. I have other work to do. Then he started badgering me about not going out with him. Did I think I was too good for him? I stated, "What part of no do you not understand? You are old enough to be my father, and I am not interested." The next day, another note stating I was purposely being rude to a guest. When I talked to my manager, I asked her when she was going to do her job and offer me some protection against this predator. Again, no response. But again, the inspection failed. The first week when I saw the fire marshal coming, I simply left my desk and went on break. I didn't return until after he left. When I left work that day, the marshal was waiting by my car, so I got a ride home with a co-worker and came back later to pick up my car. You guessed it. I received another note complaining I had abandoned my post, and another failed inspection. I didn't bother reporting it to my manager, but I did call her manager. Week 5, I'm at my desk when the marshal comes towards me. I immediately buzz my manager and her boss and leave the speaker open. The fire marshal started being aggressive, complaining how he waited for me after work and when I was going to go out with him. I said to him in as professional as manner as I could muster that I did not appreciate him coming on to me. I was not interested in transcribing his reports. I was never going out with him and I wanted him to stop stalking me. He then told me he was going to get my address and meet me at my house. At this point, my manager and her boss came out of the office. The fire marshal is escorted out. A call was placed to his boss. He's never to come to our facility ever again. Later I heard he was dismissed over the incidents. My boss is written off for failing in her duty to protect her staff from a predator, and she is transferred to a facility 100 miles away. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.